Hello, folks. Today I am sharing with you the recorded confession of an individual involved in some of the most atrocious acts committed by European explorers in Africa during the Dark Ages. Apart from the plunder of artwork and cultural artifacts, there was a far more gruesome activity Europeans carried out in Africa during those dark days. It was the theft of human skulls in the name of scientific studies. Today's video is intended solely for educational purposes and not to incite or provoke anyone. It is based on historical evidence. Before you listen, please know that viewer discretion is advised. Some may find this video too upsetting to watch. Don't forget to leave a comment if you do watch it. Here's the confession.
I am making this confession as an old man, weighed down by the sins I committed during my time in Africa many years ago. My name is Heinrich, but I will not mention the particular country I am from in Europe. I was one of the officers who, under the guise of scientific curiosity and colonial duty, participated in the theft of human skulls and other cultural artifacts from Africa. This confession is my attempt to shed light on the atrocities we committed and the exploitation of Africans during that dark period. I do not want your forgiveness, but this story needs to be told. Before I continue, I have to say our actions did not go unopposed. Indigenous resistance movements posed a significant challenge to European invasion. Brave Africans fought tirelessly against the encroachment of foreign powers. You may not find a lot of their stories in the history books today. These people never stood a chance against our superior firepower. In some cases, all they had was bows and arrows, while we marched on with sophisticated weapons. We employed different tactics to overcome these natives when the choice of attack was not weapons. Our methods included, among others, stirring up conflict between the communities, imposing our European beliefs and values to replace the local customs and practices. The last one especially was designed to subtly water down the resistance. Believe it or not, a lot of mysterious occurrences were attributed to local shrines and ancestral worship within these communities. It was actually part of the mission to identify and bring back to Europe the source of these powers. For example, the face of a deity from its shrine or other artifacts of worship. Occasionally, an individual or a group of individuals from the local communities would rise to resist us. Those individuals would become targets for elimination. To me, these Africans were great men of integrity, but to our masters, they were a barrier to be removed. Our leaders, consumed by the desire to expand their empires, saw Africa as a treasure trove of resources ready to be plundered. Many like me became rich serving these masters. The mission to bring back African skulls was mostly authorized by so-called scientific institutions eager to prove their theories of racial hierarchies and human evolution. We were fed the nonsense that we're heroes on a mission to further the progress of our own race. Today, I know all that is nonsense. The journey to Africa was hard and dangerous. Every mission was a challenge. The local people were suspicious of us, and rightly so. We came with gifts and promises of friendship, but our true intentions were far from those. We would often arrive in villages under the pretense of conducting research or offering medical help, or even to spread the gospel. The plan was different depending on the perceived challenge. Under the guise of offering help, we measured and photographed the villagers, noting their physical features and cultural practices. Sadly, we had some Africans helping us carry out these atrocities. We had local chiefs and traders who were always willing to make our mission easy for a little bit of money. It was always for money. It is sad how one could readily betray their own people for material wealth and power. I tell you, even though I pretended to be friends with some of these people, inside me, I despised them, knowing fully well I could be the object of their betrayal one day. I remember one particular case, in a village in a certain East African country. I do not want to mention names, as my confession might upset some people. The story was that there was a mysterious and priceless mask in the village shrine. The mask was said to be very old and carved from the darkest ebony. It was said to be worth a lot of money if we could only get it back to Europe. I still remember the day we arrived and set up camp near the village. Our interpreter made the necessary introductions. Everyone thought we were there to provide medical assistance, but our mission in the village was to secure the ancient mask from the shrine and bring it back to Europe. We were to use force, if necessary. We had been there for a couple of days when I observed a particularly influential individual in the person of the priest of the shrine. He was tall and imposing, and clearly commanded the respect of the community. The priest did not particularly welcome us with open arms. I could sense he watched us from afar with suspicion. An initial attempt to visit the shrine was strongly challenged by him and few other locals. They made it clear via the interpreter that strangers are not allowed in the shrine, let alone touch the mask. It was clear our mission was never going to work smoothly unless this individual was removed. It didn't take long to find a willing member of the community to help us carry out the task of stealing the mask. As usual, the bribe was a bottle of whiskey and some exotic gift items from Europe. On the day, guided by the native, we headed to the shrine at a time when we thought the place was deserted. I will never forget the look in the priest's eyes when he walked in on us looting the shrine. It was not a look of anger, but one of sorrow that cut deeper than any blade. It was as if he knew the fate that would befall him that day. I still regret what we did that day, but we left the village with the mask and the head of the chief priest. As we escaped, I could hear screaming and crying far behind us. Those cries of the villagers haunt me to this day. We took what we came for, leaving devastation in our wake. Both the head of the priest and mask we collected were packed and shipped back to Europe, destined for museums and private collections. They were to be studied, measured, and displayed as trophies of our so-called scientific progress. Back in Europe, people like me were hailed as heroes and pioneers. The public was largely ignorant of the atrocities we committed. The skulls we brought back were celebrated as symbols of our nation's greatness. But there were whispers of dissent, voices that questioned the morality of our actions. These voices were few and far between, drowned out by the chorus of national pride and scientific progress. You are probably asking why I didn't just quit. Well, back then, the punishment for defying the orders from our superiors was severe. Those who showed mercy or questioned our mission faced dire consequences. As I grew older, the weight of my actions began to crush me. The faces of those we wronged haunted my dreams, and the cries of that African village rang in my ears. The realization that we had committed unforgivable crimes against innocent people filled me with a deep, unending shame. The mask we stole that night resides somewhere in a cold European vault, stripped of its power. The head of the priest rests somewhere far away from his native land. I know his spirit will not rest until it is returned. I still see his eyes watching me. My past haunts me every day. Now, as an old man, I look back with profound regret. The skulls we stole, the lives we destroyed, and the cultures we desecrated are a stain on my soul. This confession is my attempt to make amends, to acknowledge the pain we caused and the injustices we committed. I hope that by sharing my story, I can shed light on the dark chapters of our history and honor the memory of those who suffered under our hands.
And so there it is, folks. The confessions of a man who spent his days destroying lives. Please note, this narrative is a creative and detailed interpretation of historical events, not an actual real account. Don't forget to subscribe and let me know what you think of this story. Hit the like button too.